Okay. Excellent. Good evening. Welcome to Thursday, April 10th, 2025 Scituate Planning Board meeting being held in the select board hearing room and all of our committee to all of that stuff that was supposed to be. We are missing Mr. Pritchard. Oh, he's here. So tonight, because Mr. Pritchard is joining us virtually, all votes have to be done by roll call. So there is a posted agenda. Is there a second? Second. Ms. Baxter.
Ms. Lambert?
Yes.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. Burbine?
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard?
Yes.
Ms. Burke?
Yes.
Mr. Lavadina?
Yes.
Thank you. He knows. Okay, 6:30 PM, public meeting, Pier 44, the park, the major site plan administrative review for a public municipal park. Come on forward, guys.
All right, it's not a major site plan, it's a site plan administrator review,
Okay.
okay?
That off, now it's the site plan administrative, oh my
Site
God.
plan administrative review.
I can't get one of these stupid meetings right. Hello,
Hi,
how are you?
I'm Paul Barkowitz. I'm Chair of the Pier 44 Commission. Appreciate seeing board members tonight and appreciate the opportunity to be back. We were here in September last year and introduced the project, our beautiful park that we want to be developing. And I gave an introduction then. I won't go through all of that, just highlight maybe. You've had many public meetings, surveys, many meetings with organizations, various departments within the town, the neighbors. So we've had a lot of communication, and to a large extent, this park has been designed by the community. It reflects the elements that we heard over and over again in public meetings and the survey that were most important to the community. We want this to be a place that's a magnet for the town, that's a welcoming spot for everyone in Scituate, and I think we'll get there. One of the major achievements we've had is for Mass EPA. We determined that we've satisfied all the environmental requirements of the project, so that's done. We've been in the permitting process for a number of months. Led by Corey Miles and aided by the Copley Wolf Design Group and GZA. So we're in really good hands, feel really good about where we're headed. And I'll turn it over to Corey to introduce the team and our presentation.
Well, no, we have to get you a microphone. I hope that's over here this morning. I forgot to bring that. Oh, sorry. Public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank
I
you.
think there's something missing on the table.
Yeah.
Corey's going to say the important part.
Okay.
All right, so, thank you for having us back. We have a design team that's been, leading the design, led by Copley Wolf Design Group. They're a landscape architecture and planning firm. And we also have GZA doing the civil engineering for the project. And we have an architecture firm called BIA Studio that has done the architecturals for this project. So they're all here tonight to speak about their individual contributions to the plans. And I also have samples of materials that I don't know if we want to pass them out now or wait until the
I
end.
think you should wait till we get to that part.
Okay. All right. So basically, we'll have Madison from Copley Wolf Design Group lead the presentation. They're all joining us on Zoom.
Okay.
So she'll go through a little bit of, history of the site, what we've been doing so far, and then we'll go right into the plans.
Okay, thank you.
Madison?
Sure. Hi, guys. Good evening.
Hello.
Thanks for having us. Hopefully you can hear me okay and can see my
Yes, we can.
screen. Great. So I'll kind of get into it. Obviously, as you know, there's a site we're working with. There's a big parking lot, an existing building, and the goal is to create a passive park that brings the community together, kind of gets rid of this hard, dark paving and brings in some green and nature, wildlife, and sustainability into the site, improving your downtown microclimate as well as kind of community relationships. I'll flip to the next slide. Just so you know, we do have a project website, and you can access it via this QR code. And this is also posted on Shark's website. This includes, honestly, a history of everything we've gone through. We've started this process in 2022. It started out with a survey questionnaire, seeing what the community is looking for. We had a few meetings with Shark, the advisory committee, to see what kind of needs we need to be meeting. We had a town presentation. In April, we did community questionnaire, a public info session in 2023. And since then, we've given more presentations to Shark. There's been 9 of them. So we've been constantly in communication as we've gone through the project. And I'll just bring up a quick schedule here. It's been a long process. As I mentioned, we did a lot of community outreach in the beginning of 2023. We had, as Paul mentioned, we did get MIPA approval, but there were a few design revisions we had to make and respond to in order to get that approval, which I'll briefly touch upon. Right now, we're at about 60% design development, hoping to get to, if all goes well, 90% construction development by the end of the summer. Really trying at this point to push through and get the park fully designed so that we can actually get it built. Right now, we're doing a lot of the permitting. So we went to Conscom about a month ago. We had a really great response from them in terms of stormwater and planting materials, which I can dig into in a little bit. We're going back next week. And a few weeks ago, we went to ZBA, which also went really well. We submitted Chapter 91. We're going through Army Corps. So at this point, we're really starting to push the project forward, which is super exciting for us. And feel free to jump in if you have any questions, but I'm just going to keep going. So I'll show you the plan. I'll go through some of the MIPA comments, and then I think we'll briefly touch on the technical drawings, giving a broad overview of the park design, the materials, the samples you have in front of you, and then we can kind of go back to drawings for more technical questions if you have them. So ta-da, here is the park design. There's been a lot of iterations of this. We, again, over the last 2 years, had to respond to a lot of community feedback, what are the needs of the community, as well as treating the park in terms of stormwater and materials. So just to give you a brief overview, the park is anchored by this open central lawn here. This was a big survey question we had, and there was a big want for open space to kind of lay out, stretch out, but also have it be flexible for possible daytime program like markets or events or food trucks. Really passive daytime uses that can kind of bring the community together in one spot. As you can see, it's anchored by a lot of vegetation. We're doing this purposefully. One reason is to give a good buffer to the residents just to the left. And just to anchor us again, this is Jericho Road. This is the residents, Scituate Tavern, and then the harbor on the right. So we've got a lot of planting going on. We're trying to give this resident a really good buffer. Over here is a rain garden with some evergreen trees and a fence to really give them the buffer they need in terms of sound, light, security, water, particulates, all the bad stuff. So that's what this rain garden is aimed to do. It's aimed to kind of capture the water, the particulates, infiltrate, and really create this beautiful green buffer. And we have that on both sides of the park. And again, we'll kind of go through the stormwater aspect and how water moves in a little bit. All of the planting you see here, again, is going to be indigenous to Scituate. A lot of Scituate's and really South Shore, the planting material is low maintenance, really tolerant of all conditions, but still really beautiful. So we're really trying to mimic that through the planting design. And again, Conscom was really excited about the planting palette we were proposing. As you can see, I'll move kind of towards Jericho Road, but I know that this kind of path along Jericho Road is heavily used by bikers and pedestrians. We're connecting to both sides of the kind of pedestrian path that's happening along this harbor walk, but as you can see, we're pulling the sidewalk in. One, to create a better pedestrian experience along the roadway, giving you a buffer, but also providing parking on the road without taking away any of that road width. I just want to note that. So it's kind of a dual purpose here. And again, it kind of welcomes you into the park as you kind of come into this jog, but still connects you to the rest of the harbor walk.
Excuse me, can I, parking on Jericho Road?
So there's no parking on Jericho Road. We're taking away that sidewalk parking and then pulling the sidewalk in. So I guess I can zoom in here.
Okay,
This is the existing curb line. Nothing is going beyond the existing curb line here.
okay.
It'll stay the same.
Except there are 11 parallel parking spaces there now.
So we're planning for 7 spaces here, and then we're including a parking lot that will have 13 spaces as well.
Okay.
So, and we can kind of come back to that when it comes to the landscape drawings. Good question. Thank you.
Does that, do the parallel parking spaces encroach on the current roadway itself?
No, it does not. So again, I'll zoom in here, but this is the existing curb line you have. Where the walkway is now.
I'm sorry, I can't see this. So, are you saying on the outside of those cars is the existing
Yeah.
curbway? Okay,
Here, I'll
Thank
draw
you.
it. This is the existing curb
got it. Okay,
right
thank
here.
you.
Okay.
Sorry
Okay.
if you guys couldn't see
Yeah.
that.
Thank you.
So that's it. So we're not taking away anything from Jericho Road. We're doing everything internally.
Hold on, I have a question to the audience.
Where is the access from Jericho Road to the parking lot?
Sorry, what was the question?
Where's the access to the parking
Where's the
lot
curb
off of
cut?
Jericho Road, please?
Right here. And
And
I'll
where is
cloud
the
it.
egress? Where are the 2 entrances in and out? The same spot?
Same spot. So there's adequate width between these parking stalls. Ideally, you'll pull in, you'll park. You have adequate room to back up and pull out.
Okay, thank you.
So 13 spots in this parking lot, 7 along Jericho Road, interior to the lot. We have 1 accessible spot closest to the park entry here. I'll kind of go back to where I was. So we have this walkway that's kind of connecting to the harbor walk on Jericho Road. You'll see these little white fingers coming in. This is all right now concrete paving to keep it as accessible as possible for everyone in the community. This walkway right here, we're calling the promenade, and that's super important because it's really giving the park a connection to the lighthouse. And that's a big goal of ours, is to really celebrate the lighthouse and see how we can make sure visibility is improved, accentuated, and what kind of connections we can make to it. So we're really excited about this move here. Also, we have a walkway that goes all the way around a lawn. Again, you can kind of walk around passively, view the activities going on in the lawn, and also maybe stop by a market, what have you. There's a plaza space over here. This is really for, we heard picnic tables are really important. Park bench seating is really important for observation. So we're including all of those things to kind of make everything really comfortable for the community. We're still figuring out what those are. So those haven't been chosen yet. And I think we're going to work with Shark and the community to make sure everybody's kind of happy with those selections.
So how is the lawn going to be maintained without water?
So lawn, depending on the type of grass you use, Lawn can be very maintained without water. I spoke to a close friend of mine he works on golf courses, and not that we're going with a golf course turf, but he seems to know a lot about it. And if we have, the right details, so adequate soil below it, adequate drainage, and the right turf that can withstand it, it should do just fine under the heat that it'll get from the sun. And then also, last fall we had a really dry fall, so it should be able to do well under those conditions.
But there's no irrigation here.
There's no irrigation.
I would just add that when we consulted with the Water Resources Commission, that was an ask from them, the preference of not irrigating the lawn. So we
Unless you
accommodated
single
that.
well.
Yeah,
you can't
it's not
irrigate.
really allowed in town.
Yeah, you have to single well in order to do that. Okay, thank you.
Who's responsible for the upkeep of the park once it's over? The town?
Yes, the town Department of Public Works.
Okay, we'll get to questions at the end. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, thank you.
Yep. So I'll wrap it up quickly. Arguably most important part is the boardwalk here. So everyone was really excited about that. You have an adequately wide boardwalk for viewing the harbor. Right here, this lighter tan color is the shade structure that we're proposing, and BIA will kind of get into more detail about that. Again, all of this is accessible. You're kind of sloping up to this boardwalk that gives you adequate views of the water in the harbor. And additionally, we're proposing a small boat tie-up for kayaks and canoes so that you actually have connection to the water, being in the park,
What
but
does that
also
structure look like?
we'll show you some details of it in the next
Okay.
few sheets.
I just add that you can see on the image, the left side of the boardwalk is oriented towards the lighthouse. So as you enjoy your lunch there, you can look out at the lighthouse and the rest of the harbor.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll go through these quickly, but some of the NEPA comments we had originally, we were proposing a retaining wall to hold up this boardwalk. We since removed that due to stormwater kind of movement constraints. Additionally, we had a concrete walkway from the parking lot to the boardwalk, from the promenade to the boardwalk, and from this kind of finger spur over here. So we got rid of those to make sure we were following their requests. And then lastly, the last thing I didn't really touch on is there was a request for public restroom facilities. We originally proposed an actual kind of comfort station structure. There were concerns about this place flooding, of course, so now that's going to be a portable restroom that's accessible and can be towed away during extreme flood events, and that will sit in the parking lot over here in this corner. So we're gonna flip through the technical drawings a little bit.
Is that portable restroom, is that like a tight tank, so it has to be pumped out?
No, I think it's gonna be like.
Why don't you let them explain the restroom? I think the restroom needs to be explained.
Yeah, we'll get to that. So I'm gonna let Ryan talk about some of the drawings of stormwater. I'll get back into the landscape a little bit, and then we'll let BIA kind of finish it off with some of the shade structure information.
Excellent. Madison, if you can pull up, I think it's page 12. We'll look at C101 is probably the best figure to talk about civil engineering aspects. Hello, my name is Ryan DuPont. I'm a civil engineer, work with GZA out of Providence, Rhode Island, and I'll give an overview of some of the engineering aspects of the park design. So the park itself, we'll start with stormwater. Obviously results in a pretty significant decrease in stormwater runoff into Scituate Harbor, onto Jericho Road, and onto surrounding areas, as we are taking a site that is either paved or covered with a building and largely replacing it with pervious surfaces. So the net reduction is about a half acre of impervious area will be removed as part of this project. The site grading breaks the site into two drainage basins to the south piece of the site, the parking lot area, will drain to the south. There's a rain garden between the parking lot and the southern property line. And that rain garden will treat and infiltrate as much stormwater as possible, and any overflow will extend out onto the revetment. There'll be a discharge onto the riprap revetment, which extends into Scituate Harbor. On the northern side of the site, the lawn area, grass area drains to the north, and that area will also be serviced by a rain garden type BMP. We are adding a couple of curb gutter inlets to our proposed sidewalk to catch stormwater from our proposed parallel parking spaces, and they will also convey stormwater that currently goes into Jericho Road or floods Jericho Road. It will move some of that stormwater into the park through the park stormwater management system. It will be treated, infiltrated to the extent practical, and then also discharged out onto the revetment and ultimately into Scituate Harbor. On the southern edge of the revetment, the existing property line is sort of like an L. It's kind of a weird shaped property line, whereas the town does not own the stone revetment that is on the northern edge of the property. That's actually owned by the marina to the north. But on the southern end of the revetment that the town owns, per the request of Coastal Zone Management, we are going to remove the existing concrete, debris, other rubble that's present along that stone revetment, and replace the revetment by creating a revetment that's properly sloped and is properly constructed with bedding stone and appropriately sized riprap and placed in an interlocking manner. Also on the southern edge of the park, that is where the small boat ramp gangway and float system is being proposed, and that is essentially meant to function as a kayak tie-up. It's not really going to have the capacity to service larger vessels. There's not enough water depth. Low tide in this area goes out pretty far into the harbor, so that would be kayaks and canoes. And that will essentially look like a pretty typical dock system. There'll be an aluminum gangway that extends off of the boardwalk, and that will extend onto a series of wooden floats secured to wooden piers, like many of the docks in the area. The other engineering aspect, I guess it's not really engineering, but I'll talk about, is the restroom trailer. So as we said earlier, per Massachusetts DEP requirements, flood zone requirements, the restroom can only be present on site for 180 days or less per year. To satisfy that, we're proposing placing a restroom trailer in one of the parking spots. During the winter, the trailer would be removed and the parking spot could be utilized for parking. As part of the park development, we will include utility hookups for the restroom trailer. So this trailer would be brought in, placed on the site. It would be connected to a site electrical connection. There'd also be a water connection, so you have running water, running electric in the trailer. And then the trailer also has a sewer discharge pipe, which we would include a sewer line with a pumped force system that ultimately moves sewage into the existing sewage drainage line on Jericho Road. And we'd have that'd be in the parking lot in a manhole. So there'd be, when the trailer's in, you can open the manhole, connect. When the trailer's out, you could remove the temporary connection, place the cover on the manhole, and park on top of it. And I think that's all I have.
Ryan, what is what looks like a catch basin or junction box just to the upside of the parking lot there? What's that?
Okay, so that is that's the water connection to the site. So the site will have a water connection for the trailer, and that would be the hot box backflow prevention would be installed in that area.
And the green lines are the sewer?
Correct.
Any more questions on this? I'll go to the landscape plans.
Can I ask a question? Did you say the parking lot was paved or gravel?
it will be paved.
I thought I heard something wrong. Okay.
Wouldn't it make more sense to put the restroom down closer to Jericho Road in that first parking space? So that it's right close to the sewer hookup and water? Rather than at the end?
I think from a circulation perspective, from a utility perspective, yes. From a circulation perspective, one pedestrian, if you're in the site and you have to go to the bathroom, you want to keep it as close as possible. Additionally, we need, full accessibility. So this striped area you see is kind of that accessible walkway to get to this trailer. It would be a little bit harder to achieve that condition if we moved it up here. So there are a few reasons why, and maybe there's an engineering reason why too, maybe there's not. But I think in terms of a circulation, when you're on the site and you have to go to the bathroom, it seemed like this spot made the most sense, especially since it's a restroom, even though we're going to try and make it as appealing as possible. They're just not. So it's kind of another reason of why we put it in this specific spot, is to kind of keep it away, but still really close and accessible.
It's also a residential area, so parking right on the street.
Yeah.
Find out to the neighbors and across from the neighbors. We'll have you wait for the answer, I'm sorry. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So I already kind of spoke about the landscape plans, but again, this is our materials plan. You should have some of the wood decking material that we're using in front of you. We're thinking of Kebony. We're thinking of Kebony, which is a really hard wood. It has a 30-year warranty. It's really comfortable. We use it all the time. And it should be, even though it's hard, it should still feel soft, that you could be barefoot on it and be really comfortable. It'll be that color when you install it, but it'll, as wood does, start to turn to a gray color eventually, unless you decided you wanted to seal it, which most people don't. I actually love that it turns to gray, but that's a personal preference. As I mentioned, these walkways are going to be concrete. We're still thinking about what materials we might be able to add to it to create continuity with like the local materials. As Ryan mentioned, this parking lot's going to be paved asphalt. And then additionally, we're thinking to increase the kind of permeability of the site. We're thinking of permeable surfacing for the plaza area over here. I'll keep going.
Oh, there's two woods, which is which?
The bottom one is the boardwalk.
Okay.
The cedar is for the shade tree, which we haven't talked about yet.
Okay, and this is the boardwalk, so it doesn't get hot.
No.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And then just to briefly touch on the planting, I already kind of described what was happening, and we've already presented this to Conservation Commission, but again, using all indigenous plantings that are very tolerant of the conditions it'll be experiencing on the site. And then as you can see, these blocks here, we're proposing evergreens on the site, but primarily the bigger ones on the edges to kind of buffer the particulates coming from the marina and also give the resident at 28 Jericho the privacy that they're looking for. I'll briefly touch on this, but we have some kind of sections cutting through this site, and sorry to flip back and forth, starting at Jericho Road to the harbor. And this just kind of shows you what the boardwalk is doing and what the site is doing. So on the left here is Jericho Road. You can see we've created a better pedestrian path by kind of taking it away from the road sidewalk and creating a planting buffer. As you can see, the lawn slopes. It's hard to tell at this scale, but it's going to be really gentle and gradual and you won't really notice it. But it is intentional. And then additionally, you can see because of the adjustments we made for MIPA, this boardwalk is standing on piles, and the water should be able to, as it rises, kind of come up on the revetment as it does today, move where it needs to move, and go back to the harbor as it needs to without any interruptions. These two sections are essentially the same thing. We show these really for construction purposes, but again, gradual slope up to the berm, maintaining the existing revetment where our property line does not hit this revetment, and then allowing that boardwalk to be its own structure so that water can move as it needs. I have some planting details that you probably are not interested in. Maybe you are, so I'm going to skip over these. And then I'll let Leanne and Jonas with the IA kind of take it away in terms of the shade structure and the samples you have in front of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madison. Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
So my name is Leanne Davis. I'm an architect with the IA Studio, and with me is also Jonas Gassman, another architect here. Madison, maybe we can start actually on the elevations. I think that's gives people a better sense of what we're proposing. So the design of the shade structure really came out of the community engagement process that Paul spoke about in the beginning. We heard a real strong desire from the community to create a gathering space on the boardwalk that created a nice place to view and appreciate your beautiful harbor, but also that was as open as possible, allowing for as much transparency and views through the site without obstructing those views. So the structure is relatively simple based on that interest. It's effectively 8 timber columns with wood screen walls on either end that are partially open, and those help just create a bit of a sense of enclosure. And we're also proposing some seating on those 2 ends. There's also potential to put site furnishings and interior movable seating inside the shade structure as desired and all along the boardwalk. And those columns and screen walls essentially support a wood timber roof that undulates and stretches out towards the water. The structure is basically integral and tied into the boardwalk structure below. So it's using that same pile and lateral bracing system that the boardwalk is using. And it's all been engineered to withstand the potential extreme flooding that the codes require us to design to. So the structure would allow flooding to pass through and it wouldn't harm the structure at all. And the roof is elevated above the maximum flood line that's anticipated on the site. And then the structure is also designed to withstand the hurricane force winds in this area. So it's basically a very simple set of frames, all wood with a metal roof. The materials we're proposing have all been selected for essentially durability, but also we wanted to use materials that will age beautifully in this really harsh seaside environment. So we're proposing cedar for all the glulam beams and cedar timber columns with stainless steel connections where we do need steel in the connection conditions. And then it's a strip cedar ceiling. So effectively it's all wood on the side of the structure that you're occupying. And then the roof material itself, we're proposing a flat seam metal roof. And depending on budget constraints, that could be a patinated copper, which is one of the metal materials that really does well in this saltwater environment. And it would be a way of echoing what's done at the lighthouse across the harbor. And then alternately, if budget doesn't allow for that, we could do a coated aluminum, something in a neutral color that's not too reflective, just more of a neutral tone. And essentially, it's just a very simple gesture trying to create a space on this boardwalk for gathering and hopefully a very beautiful space for the community to enjoy.
Thank you, sounds beautiful.
And for fun, I'll just show you some 3D views that we've created just to help you visualize. So this is the first one. This is standing at the promenade, looking at the boardwalk. To your right is that concrete access to the parking lot. And to the left, you can see the plaza, the lawn, and the shade structure in the background. again, with the idea of when you walk down this promenade, you're seeing the lighthouse where this couple is. Then another view, which is kind of right in front of Hatherley Road. Right at this kind of finger here, boardwalk, you can see we have planting under here, which is that bioswale and rain garden we were talking about. The big lawn in front of you, the shade structure here, and that boardwalk and how it could be used. And I help you visualize it. And I think that's all we had to present. We can open it up to questions, comments.
I just have one
Issues.
question. I should know this. What is the zoning for this area?
It doesn't matter, it's an allowed, a park is an allowed use.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
I mean, I didn't really get into the zoning.
That's okay. So I just don't want people to have the misunderstanding that you can have a class or something and that's not allowed, is what I'm talking about. So
It's a public.
it's a public park. Okay, thank you.
I will look up,
It's
it's
that way.
it's R3 floodplain and watershed protection district.
Okay, thank you. So, and Mr. Pritchard, do you have anything to ask or say?
I would just recommend that they use the aluminum for the roof
Okay.
because sure enough, that copper roof will find its way off in some storm.
Oh,
Cheaper to replace.
engineer. That's the engineer talking, okay. Ms. Burke?
No, my only question would be, what do you, because there are different classes, not to be super picky, of hurricanes. And the winds can vary quite a bit, and the winds can be sustained down there. You know, it's not considered a hurricane, but it's still gusting a sustained wind. I mean, it's tapped into like a category 2 or a category 3, or, you know, the winds are serious.
Yeah.
Off the harbor.
So just keep that in consideration if it goes flying someplace. Ms. Burbine?
Basically, what she said,
Ms. Willis?
I was gonna say the same thing, the winds.
the wind.
Yeah.
Nobody else wants to get what's that?
No,
I can't wait to go.
all my questions are answered.
So this is not a public hearing, but a public meeting, but we will entertain this. Oh, yes, Karen.
One other question.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I do have something to say.
Okay.
One of,
Hold on, Steve. Yes, sir.
okay.
Go ahead, Steve.
Well, I'm just asking, on the front edge closest to the harbor, are the plantings there? Do they have to be salt tolerant? Is there an expectation that they will be at some point in time inundated?
Yes, I think we're gonna, kind of localize the areas, but much of this site we know is going to be inundated. All of the plants are going to have to be salt tolerant, even if they're not in water, just the way, as you guys mentioned, the wind blows off of the harbor. So all of these will be salt tolerant, and the majority of them will be able to withstand drought and flooding conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Ms. Joseph.
All right, so the Conservation Commission is in charge of stormwater on this. That's not to say you have no say in stormwater. They're reviewing, the plans were redone, so stormwater is not finalized yet, and thus you will not be doing a decision tonight.
Okay.
Maintenance, who's responsible for moving the restroom when there's a storm and, and for the winter, where is it gonna be stored?
Okay, so we anticipate that the
Corey, you need to speak very loudly because they need to hear you.
So-
I know you're very soft spoken.
the restroom trailer will be rented but through the restroom trailer company, and we expect them to come and move the restroom off-site as needed, and it will go on, so that the town won't own it.
Do they know, well, how are they gonna know when to come and get it?
We
We're
can
not
tell
gonna know
them.
it pretty soon, so.
They usually are on schedule.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then, it's only gonna be there for 3 months out of the year.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it won't be here during the winter.
What if there's a hurricane coming, is somebody gonna notify them to?
Yeah, that's what I meant, yeah.
To move it?
Yes.
Okay,
Hurricanes,
okay.
yes.
Or big northeast storm, which does have vacation in the summer.
All right, so the other issue is that as you know, this site was the former Pier 44, and they are reducing the parking on site. This is one of these sites where it doesn't, the zoning bylaw doesn't specifically say how many parking spaces you need. So they've provided 13 in the parking lot and 7 along the road. Does the planning board believe that that's sufficient for the proposed use?
How many people will we expect at this park?
I think that's a hard thing to
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
because we've never had one like this. What I do see in that area is a lot of people walking through from the neighborhoods, and I feel like that would kind of account for a fair bit of the numbers of people that use it. People do, in my experience, park at the old Pier 44 and then walk to the harbor too.
Yeah.
And people overflow from the Scituate. That's a problem.
Yeah, I can see this being a magnet for people to come and park.
Well, I'm
Yeah, I know.
giving my opinion.
Yeah.
My opinion. Opening it to discussion.
Yeah.
I agree with you. People from Scituate are definitely park there.
I think a lot of people would park here.
What do you
It
mean?
becomes
But we don't
more
want
of a
to
destination
park.
location.
You know, yeah,
People will park there, go there, and then walk to the park.
Right.
I mean,
so I don't know how we decided to do it.
Well,
So 20
it's
in
a big
total?
parking.
Yeah.
20 in total?
Yeah.
How many are there now? A
Oh.
lot, right?
Too many,
Wait.
86.
too many.
How many?
65. The application says 65.
So, I know that you live here, are they off your full all 65? No, okay.
Probably 25 to 30 when Stewart overflows.
So does the planning board believe this will be sufficient for a park use?
I think it will.
If we had that, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, Ann.
I think that it will, if people want to get there, they will. People park willy-nilly anyway. So if there's an event, again, they would get there. Everybody gets so concerned about, are there enough parking spaces? People have to learn to walk. They do. And they can walk from Cole Parkway. I mean, I used to park at Purity, Supreme, Angelo's, whatever, and walk the harbor. So I think if anything, 20 spaces may be too many. I wouldn't go for any less.
I agree with that. I think 20 is sufficient.
I would say 20 is, we should hold on to the 20. I don't think we should give up on those.
No.
Yeah, I could be.
My
persuaded.
question was gonna be, if you had to add spaces, is there any way to add spaces here?
No, we're trying to balance between creating a park and creating a parking lot.
Right.
This,
Yeah,
we
I
spent a
vote in
lot of
favor of the
time.
park. I'm just
You
asking.
You want to park, you don't want to
We want
park.
to park. The other thing is, in our community outreach, including the surveys and the public meetings, there's certainly some people wanted a parking lot. But that's a really small minority. The overwhelming majority wants this level of parking. And the feature be a park. There'll be a bike rack, and so that kind of access will be encouraged.
Well, we can at least say at the very least, it's gonna be more attractive than it is right now.
Right.
Right.
That's a bottom left right there, right?
That's a low bar.
That's a very low bar.
My big question here is funding. How is this going to happen? Where is the money coming from?
We've surveyed grant application opportunities. Corey's an expert at that. The Copley Wolf team has a lot of experience, particularly with waterfront parks. So there's quite a bit of funding for large amounts, like $1 million. We're also keeping CPC in the loop, and I think they've supported us in a $300,000 grant for the feasibility work. So they have been very supportive of the project, and I think we'll be doing the CPC at some point for whatever isn't covered by the other outside grants. One of the problems is you really can't apply for grants until you have all the environmental and permitting done. So that's why we're focusing on this so much.
Do you have a guesstimate as to when you'd like to start this project?
Well, we have to-
ASAP.
Yeah, I mean, we're working through the permitting process, we can't really apply for funding until we have the permits. So that's
That
why
takes time.
So it's 2026, maybe 2027.
Question for you. Hopping to another subject here. Is there lighting in this place?
Great question. There is lighting. And I'll go to, I actually do have a lighting plan here. Let's see. And lighting plans aren't typically attractive, but you see a bunch of numbers here. We worked with a lighting designer that we work with for a lot of our Boston parks to kind of help us identify the lighting. We're obviously maintaining the Jericho lighting. We do have 2 parking lot lights that will have house side shields, so they only admit light forward, which will cover the parking lot. And I'll show you some photos of these in a moment. We have these pedestrian post stops that kind of line this concrete pathway around the lawn. We're going to have lighting, enough lighting so that the boardwalk is safe, but the idea is to have it more ambient so that at night it gives a little bit of a glow, but doesn't directly attract you at night, and also allows that emphasis of the lighthouse to really come into play. And I know some of the Shark members are really excited about the fact maybe we can do some fun kind of lighting coordination between the lighthouse and this boardwalk and have them talk to each other a little bit. And then lastly, the shade structure will have some in-ceiling lights. Again, typical parking lot light, pedestrian post stop that I mentioned before. The railing light, we're still confirming that this is what we want, but again, these are really for that ambient glow to kind of let the boardwalk shine rather than the railings. And then these are just your typical ceiling lights.
So this won't look like a new car lot. It won't be lit
No.
up like Christmas.
No,
Okay.
no. I hope not.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm gonna open this up for public comment. Anybody in the room want to speak? Please state your name and address first, please. Yes, ma'am.
Debbie Young, 17 Maple Ave, Scituate. I'm just curious, is there gonna be any use of solar lighting?
Well, I don't know. Does everything have to be solar ready now?
No, but it would, be.
And the whole satellite all the time, I know. Well, we'll ask the engineers to consider that.
Brian Murphy, 28 Jericho. My question would be on the lighting line you were talking about, to make sure that it doesn't reflect into my property, which
Absolutely.
is 16 feet from me. The other question I had was on the outhouse, moving it from part of the parking lot that's adjacent to my property to the other side, so that at nighttime, when people use it, it's not rattling and literally out from me to you where that is.
I know. I think that's a sewer issue. Could the engineer speak to moving that to the other side of the parking lot?
So, yeah, so you'd just be talking about it's on the southern row of parking spaces.
Yes.
And moving it to the northern row of parking spaces.
To the front.
Yeah, I mean that's something we can look at. The only thing off the top of my head that jumps out is the accessible space right now is obviously close to that crosswalk, which is I think what drove the original selection of the trailer. But the trailer location is flexible. There's nothing that says it has to be in a certain space.
I'll just add that. Sorry, I'll just add that. Of course, typically we want the accessible space to be as close to the park entry as possible. So yes, it could go on either side here, but it felt like it would be too close to the park as well. I will note that ideally no one's really using these at night. I don't think this park is really going to be advertised and used at night. And again, it'll only be on the site for 3 months of the year. But we can certainly
3 months, I
consider
thought
it
you
and
said
discuss.
180 days.
Excuse me, Steve?
I thought you said 180 days, that's 6 months.
That was the maximum.
That's the maximum amount of time it's allowed to be on the site, but we're only gonna be.
Memorial to Labor,
Yes.
that's just figuring. Whatever, well, but it's not before Memorial Day, you're not for the snow plus, okay.
Okay. What about security?
Um,
Any thoughts about that? Think
There's
about
no security, it's plants.
it, doesn't matter. We live in a very.
Not gonna have any more security than the rest of the street, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't wanna dampen your plans, but I have seen 2 public bathrooms destroyed in this town. So, in interest. So in the 50 odd years that we've been here, so, any more questions from the audience, yes, sir?
Mr. Murphy from 28 Jericho. The access to the harbor opens directly into a marina. Is that a problem for people who go in with kayaks? Directly into a marina, and there is at low water mark of the property, which is 103 feet, there is a dock, which is owned by, which has 3 boats on it during the summer. So, and getting access into the area with a kayak, how do you do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've kayaked there already.
The harbor master did weigh in. Was all I had no problem.
We've also talked with the manager of the marina, and he didn't express a concern.
Okay, so we'll wait for something. Okay, we hope nothing will happen then. And that's a basic marina on both sides. So, right, there's John's marina in the town of Pittsburgh, so it's, okay, Karen, yes?
Steve Bjorklund, and I'm sorry I didn't catch the very beginning of this, but what do they have for trash removal out there?
Oh, good point. What good points? Trash?
We could add trash removal, we'd have to arrange that with DPW. We could have trash can, again, none of the site furnishings have been finalized yet, or we can have that.
So that would be like the regular trash removal for the beach, when they come, and then the barrels are taken away, right, with the winter time? They still.
Couple more quick things.
Yeah, we definitely need that. Yes.
Couple more quick things. One, there's a lot of people that walk their dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a bullseye right here. Everybody who's going down Jericho Road, and I have a dog. Some of you have met the dog. I clean up after the dog every single time. But I can guarantee you, if you look at the other places in town where they're susceptible to something like this, they're a complete mess.
And I don't know how to control that. I mean, I just don't know how you do that. Besides public shaming, what else do you do?
Are there gonna be, bags
That's
available?
what I'm talking, can there be a bag
for the
station,
park?
things like that? Signage that says clean up or don't come back.
Be nice
I
only.
mean, that's what it's gonna be, you'll see it
I
in a
know.
year.
Unfortunately,
Is the park going to be dog accessible?
You
I
can.
don't think you can stop it,
So I
that's the
know,
thing, if
why
you're
is
walking down
dog-
the street, I don't think they can stop them from coming onto
Yeah.
public property. It's public property anyways. But it's not that I wouldn't wanna see dogs in there, it's just that it would be great if the owners really knew that they should take care of the dogs. And I guess my last comment would be, if you're looking for somehow to maintain the park, and I don't know if I taught this at the beginning or not, I'm sure probably most of you have been down to Plymouth Harbor. And in Plymouth Harbor, they now have a kiosk if you wanna park there. So if you're concerned with how many people are actually gonna park in those 20 spots that are there, if the ones that are inside had a kiosk and they had to pay $1 or $2 to actually go to the park with a car, and they were concerned about the time that they were gonna be there, that would probably pay for all the maintenance of the park.
interesting you should say that. I was in Plymouth on Saturday about the same thing, like, well, what a great money making opportunity for the town if we put meters everywhere.
But it's it's only the summer, right?
You can gauge it whenever you wanna gauge it, if you don't wanna have it in the winter, because the parking's not a problem, then you don't have to have it turned on. Plymouth shuts them off all the time, 7 o'clock at night, they shut them right off. But on peak periods, if you're concerned with the use of the park, I mean, a lot of people would probably drive down there, sit there and maybe have lunch or something like that. If it was $1 or $2, I don't think that that's a real big deal. But I think your overflow parking, it's a great place for people to park their car, walk around Lighthouse Point, and leave the car there for hours. And that will prevent people from actually using this particular park. So they should think about something like that, I would.
Park it like.
Interesting, like I said, I just thought of that Saturday, what interesting way to make money for the town. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Peter Sandblom, 16 Mordecai Lincoln, back to the dog situation. How can you say that you can't restrict dogs there when you're restricting them, the town is restricting them on the Mordecai Lincoln property? So it's kind of like, so they have big signs and they're fining the neighbors when they go on. So I think there is a way to stop dogs if that's what the intention is. Just that's more of a comment.
Okay.
Because they're restricting them on Mordecai Lincoln. And fining people hundreds of dollars if they have their dogs on there, so.
Is that, I don't know if that's conservation property up there, so I don't know if it's treated differently or
I think
not.
it's
I don't know if this is
probably-
conservation in town, but.
That could be, we'll look into that, Mr. Sibble, thank you.
Go ahead.
Are we all set here then?
I
Yes,
just have
ma'am.
one more comment, sir. As far as security, are there gonna be any surveillance cameras? On property at all? I mean, that would kind of be serve as a more security, maybe, I don't know.
I don't know,
We haven't planned for that, but if that's what the planning board desires, we can certainly include those in.
am I correct in remembering that they wanted to camera the harbor and that was turned down at town meeting, is that, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that town meeting?
But they're gonna have an electrical connection down here, so if they wanted to add that, if it became a problem, they could certainly add a camera.
Yes, it's just.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You can put it on the lamp.
Yeah.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public meeting for site plan administrative review for Pier 44 Park located at 44 Jericho Road until May 22nd, 2025 at 7:30 p.m. and to continue the time for action for filing with the town clerk until June 13th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Baxter?
Mr. Lavadier,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yeah.
Mr. Pritchard, Mr. Pritchard, Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard.
Yes, sorry, I was on.
Thank you. No, it's okay.
Thank you.
And you said.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Continue public hearing for 340 Gannon site plan administrative review. A site plan administrative review for a one multi-family building and a stormwater permit in the village center in the neighborhood district. Applicant C. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Get ready for the voting. Vote. Yeah. Good vote. Okay. What's happening on Gannon Road, please?
Sure. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering. Since the last meeting, we had submitted plans March 7th. They went to Mr. Chessier for his review. John did a review letter dated March 25th, which I think shows that we've addressed almost all outstanding comments. On the last iteration of plans, we incorporated the planning board's comments, primarily the crosswalk across Gannett Road over to Cosmos Cafe was slid over with a note for final location. We coordinated with DPW. Our landscape plan was updated by Dave Hawk to eliminate the straight meadow mix out back and now specifies an eco lawn meadow mix and a drought tolerant fescue at the back of the property, as well as a staggered row of trees along the northern rear lot line and revised landscaping along the eastern lot line with the abutter. I would add that we've met with the abutter, Mr. Strazieri, to the east, and we are still working out final landscape arrangements along that lot line. I expect we'll have a revised landscape plan on that. Other than that, Design Review Board, I believe, issued you their recommendations architecturally. That's where we stand. I think we're close to a finish on this.
Ms. Joseph, you want to go to John?
why don't we go to John
Mr.
first?
Chesson, you get that.
And then I will, whatever he doesn't pick up, I'll pick up.
Okay.
So, yeah, I think Greg pretty much summed it up. There's a couple of things. There's, for you to deal with, there's a couple of waivers, mostly to deal with the build to zone. There's, as I say pretty much every time I do one of these reviews, the board should review the landscaping, screening, etc., amenity space. I believe the DPW is pretty much okay with it from what I've read. There may be some final things when they go to connect. The main issue that I have that remains, so the bylaw requires, the stormwater bylaw requires that you retain an inch. This is a developed site, but the building has a flat roof and it has I'm sure the structural design hasn't been done before permits. So you could probably capture more of the flat roof and bring it into the system because that could be routed out to the other side. And by doing that, you could meet 80% of your site for TSS on a weighted average. And there's a whole bunch of things that could be achieved with that. I don't think you can get 100% of the impervious to catch, an inch of it caught. But I think you could get more, and it's blank sheet, flat roof, you should be able to catch most of the flat roof, in my opinion. I think that's the main thing. There was some other minor changes, but that's the biggest thing I think that could be done that, would make sense.
Okay, thank you.
So the board, the question is, the board wants to see more done.
Absolutely.
All right, so
Yeah.
so they need to work on that.
Yeah, so you need to work on the downspouts and bring the capture all that kind of stuff. Mr. Pritchett?
Oh, good.
All right, so the other two there's three other waivers. There's one for submitting the affordability documents a little bit later in the process, which, is reasonable.
Yeah.
There's one for the build to zone, which seems reasonable because it's the frontage and the setback step back. The design review committee recommended that the area of non-compliance is small in comparison to the whole project.
I heard that.
Does the board seem reasonable that that's okay?
Question I have about the affordability. Would one of those affordable units be 3-bedroom?
Only one 3-bedroom.
That was
There's two.
Two whites,
Yeah.
I think you're probably at the mercy of the board on that one, but let's keep that up for discussion.
Everybody.
Three.
There's 3.
There's three of them.
Okay,
So we'd like to make a request that one of them be affordable.
yes.
Mr. Pritchett, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Ms. Burke?
Yes.
Okay, so that is our request.
We'll keep that under advisement.
Oh, might be a decision, okay, yeah.
All right, so I think just in a very brief, please tell the board what the materials of the building are going to be.
So what we agreed to.
You need to speak
You
louder.
speak real, I know, everybody's so soft-spoken, but
The
I
camera is on,
Is it on that little circle on there?
that's the thing you're shooting for up there.
Jamie Kelleher with Axiom Architects. So what we agreed to in the latest design review meetings was cedar clapboard for siding, as well as wood trim painted. So the majority of the material would actually be sort of historically accurate wood for siding and trim, other than areas that would be heavily susceptible to water damage, which would be PVC trim.
What was the roof, what was the roof gonna be?
Roof is 40-year asphalt shingle, and then some variation of a rubber roof on flat portions.
And have we decided that's where the mechanicals are going?
Yes.
And the mechanicals won't be visible.
Correct. Studies were done in the 3D model to determine that there would be very minimal visibility from the road, mechanical.
All right, so, right now we have a master deed and HOA trust that was submitted. Town council agreed with all my comments. Town council didn't give me written comments. They've addressed the comments in the master deed and trust, but it will be conditioned that we're not submitting it back to town council at this point.
Okay.
It'll be conditioned that it all has to be acceptable prior to the occupancy permit, because you need it all recorded prior to, that, so that's.
We got that with a snapping straight up.
Right,
That potentially could be prior to a sale, rather than an occupancy permit.
I don't know.
well, it's usually occupancy permit, because you usually don't sell until you get an occupancy permit.
You can go under agreement, but it would be the occupancy.
We can get an occupancy permit as soon as the construction is done.
Yeah, but no one can close on it without an occupancy.
Since they believe it's gonna be all one building permit for all the units. So, you have, all the units gonna have to be done.
Are they condos or are they rental?
Undecided.
The condo documents are what have been drawn. I believe that Mr. Sheeran is probably gonna keep a few of the units for himself for rental purposes. And sell off enough of the units probably to pay for the building, get that taken care of. But again, we were back and forth with whether this was gonna be condos or apartments, so it was designed to make both. So it's gonna be up, it's a financial decision.
Got you bring up both of one building.
It's
You know, you
being
can rent
written,
a condo.
it's gonna be written for condos.
Right.
But you can
You're
rent out
gonna keep it for
the
rental, you're gonna keep it for rental purposes, I was gonna say, some of you would say.
Make sure it's warrantable. Make sure it's warrantable.
Okay.
Because that can screw things up, like I said, that issue. It's not, it's discussion.
All right, so, the other issue, I'm going to, as you've done on every other project, will condition surety.
And mitigation?
That's the next topic of conversation. What do you, right now, they're putting in the sidewalk in front of their property, DPW standards. We are going to condition it so that the crosswalk is gonna be field located in the end with DPW and planning to get it in the right location. It may not be along their frontage. I mean, it's gonna be something that we all have to agree and work on so that the crosswalk ends up being in the proper place.
Okay.
But that'll be a condition. Is that the only mitigation you want, or does the board want other mitigation?
And you're bringing in a hydrant, right?
We're adding another hydrant, we're replacing the hydrant that's in front of it, which is an older hydrant
Yeah.
as well.
And it's.
That's standard, that's standard in this day and age.
I'd like to take more mitigation under advisement.
Okay,
So
so
think about it.
can you throw out potentially.
Like somebody with the landscape.
Now, what I'd like is, and I know it's out of their purview, but, Gannett Marketplace, which is next door to you, goes right down to the street. If there would be some way to come to some type of agreement with Scituate Realty Trust to join the sidewalk across the.
Well, they don't have a sidewalk.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Like, to go in front of the driveways?
Come to some type of an agreement with Scituate Realty Trust that owns that property. That maybe you can talk to them about some quid pro quo type of thing to extend your sidewalk across that area.
Yeah, I just don't know if that gets us anywhere else. You know, I don't think there's a sidewalk here at the gas station. Yeah.
But the gas station's a real problem.
That's right. So you want us to get the sidewalk to the problem? I prefer not to do that. We're going 100 feet, we're gonna end up right where they pulling it up for the gas station. They actually park almost in the street where the gas is.
I know they do.
So I think it's better served for us to get across the street where we've already got the sidewalk over there. And I'm gonna guess that when sewer comes in, you're gonna see major changes on the other side of the roadway over there. And that's gonna have a complete sidewalk probably going all the way up to the corner because they own all the way up to the lights.
So here's a thought, do you want to ask them for a certain monetary contribution as a gift to go towards sidewalk traffic improvements in Greenville, in North Situate?
Which we did routinely in Greenbush.
Yeah, you did do that routinely in Greenville.
And I'm open to that
I am
suggestion.
too, I think that's a good idea. Something,
So, well, I mean, we can finalize it next time, but what is the range that you're thinking of? So I have an idea and can negotiate with Mr. Bjorklund.
Can you remind me about Greenbush? What did we do to them?
I think all those are different animals than what we have here,
Okay.
because you,
There's special permits.
right, those are
This is
special
by right.
permits, but this is also, they are putting in a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, I would suggest maybe $10,000.
that's right on the mark, $10,000.
Is that agreeable to everybody? Yes. I was gonna ask for 25, but did they spoke up?
So is everybody open to negotiation right now?
How so?
Well, it's back and forth, give a little, take a little is the way I look at it. And I'd like to have Greg explain why the drainage system is the way we have the drainage system. And why we really don't wanna go back and redesign the whole thing because we have a flat roof. And how that actually meets what this board has required of everybody in the past. So Greg can give a quick
What does
explanation.
that have to do with
So I'm just, it's a project, that's all, it's a project.
All right, we're all ears.
Sure. As Mr. Chesia pointed out in his review, there's one section of the town of Scituate stormwater bylaw that we do not comply with. I'm not aware that the other projects in town have complied with this requirement.
What page are you on?
I'm looking for it right now.
You
It's one of-
look,
it's
all
one
right,
of
here
these
on
green
page
tabs.
9.
It's the 1-inch requirement. Hold on one sec.
Yeah, it's page 9.
Chuck, did you know what that is?
That starts at 5.
On page 9, 750, 11.2, low one
Yeah, so the-
management.
So the section of the bylaw is section 8.83A. And what it is, it's a requirement that project that's an acre in size or larger retain the first 1 inch of stormwater runoff from all impervious surfaces. That's a Scituate requirement, it's not a state requirement, it's not under the DEP stormwater standards. The site fully complies with the DEP stormwater standards. We provide adequate recharge in accordance with the DEP standard. But the town of Scituate standard is almost impossible to comply with. Even if you were to take the roof area that doesn't drain to the recharge system and direct it there with internal drains, we'd still be seeking that waiver. This is asking to retain the first 1 inch from all impervious surfaces on the site. It's almost impossible to attain because out front along the street, you're going up in elevation right off the street onto this site. You would have to grade the site in a negative pitch from the front property line onto the site to retain the stormwater on the site. Furthermore, the way to retain stormwater and infiltrate it into the ground requires setbacks from a property line to a stormwater device and from a foundation to a stormwater device. You have competing or conflicting bylaws here. You have a zoning bylaw that's requiring the building to be built right up on the front street line, but then you have stormwater standards that require a stormwater BMP that has setbacks which can't be met in that area between the street and the front of the building. So I'll agree with John that yes, you could take more of the roof and direct it to the infiltration area in the back of the site, but we greatly exceed the DEP requirements. The DEP in this case would only require 738 cubic feet of infiltration. We're providing 3,108 cubic feet. So the Scituate standard here is extremely hard to comply with. We would ask for a waiver from it.
Well, how come we're just hearing about this waiver now?
Because we believe it's a newer one that we thought we had been able to address. John's brought it up that we still don't comply. We've looked into this at this point and we've identified it as a waiver that would be needed. I wrote a request letter just today that I can submit to you.
What did this have to do with litigation?
They're looking for another waiver.
They're looking for another waiver.
Hear all of that?
I mean,
This has to do with the design of the overall project.
can you get some more into it? I mean,
Yes, you could absolutely get some more into it. What I'm saying is you're never gonna get all of it. All of it is the Scituate standard. We're already 4 times greater than what the state standard is here.
I think they should try to get more in.
How much more do you think you can get it? Let's ask that question. John?
I think they can get the flat roof in. They've got room between the two systems. They have to add another couple of rows. But at minimum, they should make 80% on net for the site, because they're at 77, they could get 80 easy.
Is that possible?
I mean, I haven't done the numbers, but I would think so, you're pretty close.
Mr. Pritchard, did you hear that conversation?
Yes, I did.
And?
I will defer to John's opinion here on whether it's achievable or not.
Okay, thank you.
From a design standpoint, how much is that? How much does that change trying to get to 80%?
It's putting an internal drain in the roof and the internal of the building to get that water to the back parking lot. Again, this is a site that has absolutely no drainage system on it whatsoever. We are increasing the impervious surface of the site slightly. It's 31,000 square feet today. We're making it 35,000 square feet. We're only going up 4,000 square feet on the entire site with this redevelopment. We're bringing it into much greater compliance. Again, we greatly exceed the state requirements. We're not in a well protection zone. We're not in an aquifer zone. To have the recharge, it doesn't seem necessary at this site.
We've added 4 separate stormwater systems to handle the site.
Can you say that again?
With the defenders, so we've got total submitted taken out, everything that's going towards the street. We've got the front roof portion that we were asked into one system. We've got the entrance to the driveway into another, and we've got 2 systems in the back for the parking lot area.
So the difference is 77% to 80%?
Well, 80%'s the standard TSS requirement removal. They've got 77. If they took, the problem is that the infiltration gets you 80 right off bat. So if you're just going into, I mean, the other thing is the other systems they're adding get sediment, but infiltration is a filter. And it does go to a shellfish growing area in the river. So it is a critical area. So granted, the town drainage goes right there too, but it's sort of like with some, I think part of the whole thing is whenever you zone something and you expect new things, you're trying to bring things closer to compliance. As a consultant to the town, I'm gonna always say, get the maximum compliance you possibly can, because I'm working with the town. I understand their point, it would cost some more money to put an extra row of infiltration chambers and potentially some more design work on, the roof to make that work, but it looks feasible, so that's what I said.
So basically, that's the $10,000 that we'd be looking for mitigation. We would put in this extra drainage capacity to meet zoning requirements.
They'll never meet the zoning
They'll
requirement.
never meet the zoning.
I agree that there's no way you can do that, but you can make it close.
Stormwater.
Stormwater, sorry.
It's not zoning.
All right, stormwater, I misspoke. But at any rate, so you're looking for us not to ask for any more mitigation in terms of money, so that then you can turn around and bring this up to 80%.
What I'm actually asking is for the board to make a choice on one of the two, and we would probably do either of those two things without going over. So if you'd rather see sidewalk stuff happen, I think I could convince Mr. Sharon to do sidewalk stuff. If you want us to change this drainage and go redesign that stuff and try and hit the 80%, we'll see if we can do that.
Well, I just think it's setting a bad precedent. This is one of the first redevelopments in North Situate. You're gonna be faced with a lot more redevelopment in North Situate. And to let the first one have, this is, it just, I think that they should get the maximum that they can get.
We're gonna ask you.
So then I think what she's trying to say is that she would prefer that we do the roof drainage and not do anything with the sidewalk. That's great, I agree, let's do that.
I think that you should be able to do both.
I didn't think that.
I think you should be able to do both.
Yeah, they say both.
We're not a pedestrian frontage zone. We've already put the sidewalk across the entire frontage. The mitigation would be
It's
for,
not just being required of your project. I'm
But-
telling you that. It's not just being required of your project.
but the mitigation for extending a sidewalk would be related to what we've had and we've heard from our traffic consultants. We're not having a negligible impact. We're connecting directly with the sidewalk from the front of the site to the back of the site to across the street at our expense, providing a crosswalk. That should be mitigation money, is that crosswalk.
But you're providing safe access for the people who are going to live in the building and for other residents of North Situate, which is hopefully going to be a nice community when it's all redeveloped.
That's good mitigation.
And it's
Great
for,
mitigation.
But
and
it's
it's
not
Help the
for,
citizens of North Situate, thank you.
because you don't want every project to have a crosswalk across the street. This is providing it for everyone that's coming down the road, literally, to this location.
Well, I have to say that, that I do not agree with you, Ian, that there could be a crosswalk to the left of that building because of the way that building is designed. And then the gas station is right there. I'm looking at it.
I understand that, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But I think what Karen was saying, $10,000 into sidewalk mitigation is somewhere in North Situate.
If we have to pick, then I want I want the drainage to comply because I don't want to set bad example for the rest of Situate. I mean, if the board thinks that that the crosswalk is adequate mitigation that they have to do and the sidewalk, then we won't ask for any money.
I don't agree with that either.
So, I mean, it's up to the board. What does the board want to do?
So we want the drainage to be as good as it can be, and so let's make a deal.
Make one more comment.
Sure.
We tried to keep this so that it was not gonna be a special permit situation. So if we went back and decided that we wanted to make it a special permit, you'd ask us for mitigation, then we would get more units. We're trying not to do that. We're trying to comply as best we can without special permit process.
We totally get that.
I think you'll probably see a lot of projects coming in North Situate, they'll be requesting special permits. There's no roof on it. I mean, you can ask for everything you want to ask for if people are requesting special permits, but it's an as-of-right building. And I think that we've done as much as we can. Again, the drainage, we certainly will look at the drainage again and see if we can pull more of that in to get that closer to what we need to be. And we just hope that the board would think that that's.
Okay, so what I would like to suggest to you is that with the drainage, if $10,000 is too much, because I was gonna ask for $25,000, so we wouldn't have money to play with. Can we take it under advisement that, that it goes anywhere from 5,000 to 7,500? Toward the sidewalk for all of Situate County communication.
And bringing the drainage up
We're
to
talking
80%.
about 80%.
So you can take that under advisement.
Yeah, we can take it under advisement. So we can, but hopefully to get the drainage to where it has to be. It's an odd site, I mean, well, we all know that. But it's the first, so you want to do the standards.
But there very well could be other sites with similar drainage issues, and I don't really think you wanna set a precedent.
No, so I said they have to
I
bring
mean,
up.
so they should try their hardest, and then we'll, evaluate.
Yeah.
So the question becomes, how long is it gonna take you to get the revised information in?
About a month.
Have it by the end of next week.
So. I didn't put my calendar with me, so the end of next week is the 18th.
Yeah.
Friday the 18th.
Friday the 18th. Will you commit to Friday the 18th?
Yes.
All right, so now, planning board, I'm going to ask you. Will you commit to reviewing a draft decision and having all the comments back to me by May 5th?
Yes.
Then I'm on vacation the 25th through May 6th. That's why I'm asking for the comments. I will be willing to continue this to May 8th and hope that I can get a decision from them all to review. So I'm also struggling, so that's a compromise there as well that we're all making to for this time frame to move forward. So that's the motion I'm gonna put in front of the board right now. Is that reasonable?
Yes.
So that motion is provided, we have our stuff in time. The
That's not-
hearing will be continued and closed on the 8th.
Yeah.
With the decision, we'll receive a copy of that maybe at least a day or two in advance.
Yes.
Well, no, it's not gonna be a day and it's gonna be maybe a day and.
As long as we get it before we're into the meeting, so we can get a quick review of it. And I had already said to Greg and everybody involved that we need to be prepared that day to see if there's anything in there that we need to go over. So that when we start to read it, we're already gonna know.
If not, if you can't make that, then I have to put you on June 12th.
We can make it.
Yeah, Terry, back in the room.
Yes, Peter Samblom, 16 Mordecai Lincoln, thanks for letting me be here again. I have a couple of questions and a couple of comments regarding what went on tonight and last time. I don't know the gentleman's name in the vest.
Greg Morris.
Mr. Morris, and I know Steve, have you been able to speak with my neighbor, 18 Mordecai Lincoln, where you're gonna be, accessing potentially some of his property?
Suppose he was gonna get a hold of me, the neighbor has not got a hold of me yet,
Okay.
but the intent, obviously, we have some retaining walls on here. We're working with the neighbors to see if we can height some of those and do some grading towards our property. But the design that we have still shows the retaining walls on there. I think we mentioned that to the board before, that if we can lose those, we can do that, it could be a modification or something like that. But it is our intent to continue to work with the neighbors, as well as that screening that we already talked about. We added some more stuff for Mr. Sandblom in the back, and we're also working with the other neighbor on the side, so.
When are you meeting with the Board of Health?
Monday night.
Next week.
I thought the meeting just got canceled.
They talked about maybe pushing it off a week, maybe two, but it's still during the month of April.
Because we don't have a working septic system here yet either,
It was
so.
canceled on.
You'll have it before the next meeting.
That's what I'm thinking, but.
It's certainly subject to a working septic system, you know that, so we can condition that approval is subject to us getting the septic approved. If for some reason we don't have it before the 8th.
Like Monday's town meeting.
But we've already been to them and they're reviewing the placement of the wall, how close the wall is to the property line, which we've kind of moved to get more mitigation for the neighbors. And we went to them and we were well received, they understand why we're doing it, and the system has been
Fully
for
submitted.
review a while ago. It's just that they haven't really get to us until about Monday night.
Well, I'll be together.
That changes my schedule if it's Monday night, because
Hold on, wait, yes, sorry.
Yes, as a matter of public record, during the last meeting, Mr. Morris had indicated that he had spoken to both neighbors, both Mr. Gates and my next door neighbor about the wall.
I did not say that.
Yes, you did, sir.
And I spoke with Mr.
Yeah, we're not gonna debate.
And as subsequent, I provided the plans to Steve, and I'm not sure if that was passed along, but I mean, I just wanna make sure that we've talked about it. Steve and Doug have been fantastic, but when things are being spoken about in a public forum to the planning board, I wanna make sure that it's 100% accurate, that my interests are, protected. With regard to the other thing that I brought up at the last meeting about the sidewalk or the crosswalk going into the middle of Cosmos, when I looked at it the next morning, if they did bring it all the way east and brought the crosswalk over, it would have joined with the crosswalk, basically on the far left-hand side of Cosmos, which it wouldn't be in the park.
Which is why.
we agreed to.
That's why it's gonna be.
Yes, so I just wanted to correct I correct my mistakes, and I would expect the developers to correct theirs as well. With regard to the flat roof, everything's been talked about protecting the mechanicals from the street. Are there any provisions to protect the abutters both along the side and the back, so that we're not looking at, all the mechanicals on the roof and everything? Is there anything in the bylaws about that?
Sorry, you're kidding as well, right?
You have to be quite far away from the building before you
Because
get
they
any
set in
view,
the flat.
right? So the closer you get to the building, the more they are possible to see.
So if you're 200-300 feet from the building, you're less of a chance to see it than if you're on the property?
You won't see it if you're on the property.
Let's see if you're on the property.
Right. Okay, so my question is, are the abutters gonna see that, during the winter and things like that? Because everything's focused to the front of the building, like screening to the front, but is there any consideration to the neighbors about, the back?
When you're screening the back, and the flat roof sits down, right?
Currently, no.
So there is no
The
consideration.
study that we did was taken about 300 feet down the road. There was almost no visibility except the very tippy top of what we assumed to be a little bit larger than what a condenser would be. So
And in the
my
back,
answer is that at 300 feet, there's very little chance of any visibility.
What about in the back?
There would actually be less from the back because most of them are on the front half of the building.
You're pushed to the front, not
Right.
the back, was in the way it really,
Okay.
the move walls and stuff. Right?
And then one more thing, I mean, all the focus of the vegetation has been to the back. Where I look out, from my bedroom as well as my front door from, late October till today, where all the cars are gonna be coming up the hill to the back of the parking lot. Those lights will be shining directly, into, our property. And, I just asked, that Steve, I guess, in touch with me so we can, add some vegetation. And Brian Futterman, who is at 18 Mordecai Lincoln and owns the land, is more than happy. And I provided Steve with the leaching field plans we're happy to have vegetation put on, our shared leaching field, because there's plenty of, space, there's like 20 feet before his leaching field starts, and we're happy, to have some vegetation put up there. So I just, I'm here to ask Steve to get in touch with me to discuss that.
And the only thing I can say about that, because I'm not the owner of the property, is that obviously this project on site is what we're here in front of the planning board for. And I know Dougie is committed to trying to work with the neighbors. If it's something that's reasonable, Dougie will be chatting with the neighbors about that. But I can't commit to something, and hopefully Peter understands that. But he's met with Dougie a number of times, and it's.
And one more, when Doug's been a great neighbor, when he did buy the property, he did take down a lot of trees, and he did probably 7 to 10, and I know there's gonna be more coming. And where the property sits today, where he has a lot of his equipment and things, a lot of fill has been pushed onto our leaching field, and actually the excavator is sitting on top of the wall right now. So what we would ask is, just basically, I don't even know how to coordinate this, but to make sure that none of those trees that actually fall on, the other property, like the big tree by the gazebo and things like that, aren't taken down during the construction phase. And I know I'm jumping ahead, but that's why I asked Steve last week to walk the property, and I just haven't been able to connect with him. So it's just, those are the concerns for us, because those are the things that are gonna create a buffer for us as well, that Doug's not gonna have to spend money on.
Thank you very much. Mr. Pritchard, you have something to say to us?
No, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So one other quick question, an issue we brought up last time with the two walls on the, coming up the driveway, is the no man's land in between the two walls, what's been done there?
I reached out to the neighbor and I spoke with the neighbor, Mr. Gates,
Okay,
about grading up to the wall at that location and
Okay.
eliminating the wall on our side. He couldn't commit to it at this point in time. He has a partner in the property that
okay,
he wasn't able to speak for and commit to. So we do have a retaining wall along that side lot line, so that we're not grading onto the neighbor's property whatsoever.
all right.
Yeah, no, please, because there are two walls. That's what this gentleman's not understanding. There's our leaching field wall, but he's saying he's spoken with both neighbors, and he hasn't, Steve has said he has not spoken with my neighbor that we walked the property with Doug and Steve with. That's where he's being disingenuous and not telling that there are two neighbors.
I mean, he said Mr. Gates, and he said he spoke to Mr. Gates. Are you taking care of the other neighbor?
I'm certainly willing to talk to all the neighbors.
Yeah.
I went to Mr. Gates' house, talked to him on one occasion. It was not necessarily about grading onto the property. It was just if he had any questions regarding the property, because I reached out to all the neighbors to try to meet all the immediate abutters. Greg had talked to him, and like Greg had just said, Mr. Gates was gonna reach out to his partner, find out if the partner was amenable to us grading up against that wall. We do understand that, I don't know if it was the same wall or a different wall, there's another retaining wall further back on our property, which is, his first name is Brian, and Peter, and we had said the same thing, their wall's only a couple feet, I think, from Doug's property. And we chatted with them, and they sounded amenable to allowing us to grade up to the edge of their wall, which would help bury their wall. Dougie is still committed to doing that. Like Pete said, I hadn't had a chance to get over there with him. And Brian can certainly reach out to me. Pete and I chat once in a while, and text back and forth. I'm gonna go out there. I'm away next week, but I'm certainly amenable to going out. And if they allow us to do that grading onto the adjacent property, and it makes the project better, we certainly do.
Okay.
And we're not looking at taking trees down if there's trees over on the neighbor's property. This is strictly just grading. Yeah, it's just grading.
Karen, do you have anything else to?
Yep. Okay.
Are you ready?
We're ready.
I move to accept the applicant's request to continue the public hearing for site plan administrative review for one multifamily building and stormwater permit in the village center and neighborhood district, North Scituate Village District, Outer Village, VCN, NSV, OB, until May 8th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. and to continue the time for action for filing with the town clerk until May 30th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Baxter?
Mr. Lavadia,
Yes.
Miss Burke,
Yeah.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Miss Burbine.
Yes.
Miss Lewis,
Yes.
Miss Lambert.
Yes,
Thank you very much.
we'll see you Monday night.
Be there or be square.
You will not go see.
Oh, well, no, check.
I'm gonna go
Board
for
of
the
Health.
job, I think. We have to do the Board of Health if they're gonna have the meeting. If not, we'll just do a town meeting, that's fine.
Oh, it's
Straight off the glass.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And if you're not there, you guys have fun Monday night.
Oh, we'll have a blast. Let me show like crazy. Okay.
Yeah. Board of Health meeting, and we'll pick the towns.
It's the same.
So now we're gonna have a public.
And that might-
hearing.
I don't think
they can. I don't think they can.
I looked on the,
I said to the kids, I'm pretty sure. With the site plan administrator review for an accessory dwelling unit at 20 Maple Avenue. On the applicant's given. Come to the front table, please.
that's.
Oh, here he is, he's right there. I know you. Here, can I have this, please?
My name is Paul Terrell. I live at 19 Firth Road, Weymouth, Massachusetts.
And you're here for the 20 Maple
I am.
Avenue. Okay, tell us all about this.
I'm sorry, I don't have an easel or a board meeting. Folks have the drawings in front of you. I have a proposed, I believe they call it protected ADU, two-car garage with both storage and a two-bedroom apartment above it. It fits within zoning. I've included drainage, grading, stormwater management. It meets all required setbacks. It's been reviewed by the local building official. I don't currently have any outstanding comments. It's been reviewed by the town planner, which I don't believe I have any outstanding comments. I received review comments from the town, which I probably did no exception to. I can not, do I have everything else?
All right, so the proposal is for an 839 square foot ADU above a garage, to be constructed, on the existing lot, which is, approximately, 8,700 square feet. It will be the first, ADU under the new bylaw. The setback of the accessory dwelling garage is done by the average setback method, and the building commissioner agreed with the calculation for the average setback. There'll just be one ADU on the property. It meets, you know, the height is fine. You know, I think that that's, it's basically an ADU that you have to approve. I mean, that doesn't mean he's done permitting.
Yeah.
But, it means that, you know, I think that the planning board can approve it, et cetera.
And I haven't done, I drive by all of the places that do play a role, obviously, and it's, people always wonder what's that person in their driveway, I try to just drive by. Yes. But I know where it is, and, this is the first protected ADU that we have under the new bylaw.
Correct. And so town council have reviewed the draft decision, and, he's okay with the draft decision.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have anything they'd like to say? Yes, please.
My name is Deborah Young. I'm at 17 Maple Ave. I'm directly across the street from property. Our neighborhood as a whole is a small area. Every lot is buildable, has got house on it. The properties are supposed to be 10,000 square feet, but there are some, you know, properties that don't have that much, and we probably built before.
Not conforming.
Yeah, a long time ago. We have enough I think we have enough building. There's been a lot of building going on, even in our neighborhood down the street. We've got all kinds of apartment buildings all over going on, condo buildings, and so I don't think in our neighborhood there is room for something like that. As it is, I would just like to say that I received, this is dated March 24th, the letter that I received. I received it April 4th. Okay, so as someone that's not really familiar and well schooled in this type of thing, that's not much time to really investigate and look into things. And I don't have a problem with any of my neighbors as far as their personalities. Our neighborhood is a decent neighborhood. However, in the letter, I do have some discrepancies. In the letter, it says 8,452 square feet. Maybe that's changed. And it says single family home.
I know, that was a mistake.
It is not a single family home. And it does not have 3 bedrooms. I was in that house a while ago. And there are 2 units, and each unit, as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, has 3 bedrooms. So you've got 6 bedrooms. Now, maybe someone took out a wall or something, or expanded an area, but there are 5 cars that are currently parked across the front of the property. And they used to park in tandem, but there was a tree in the yard, so I think for whatever reason, I think that was taken away so they could park across, because everyone, you know, I mean, they could be, I'm not sure, but there might have been 2 couples living in one of the residences, you know, at one time, and everyone has their own car, and everyone's schedule is different. But with more vehicles, and also, this says it's a 3-car garage that's being built.
I made a mistake on writing the abutter notification.
I know.
In the end, it doesn't, it's a principal dwelling. You can have an ADU, one ADU for a principal dwelling. So there'll never be any another ADU allowed to be on this property, because a duplex, a 2-family can have one, a multifamily can have one, a single family can have one.
So Michelle, we are all grappling with this new bylaw that we have. And this is by right, we don't have the right to turn this down.
Okay, except that I understand that the property is too close to the street.
No, they mezzanine setbacks, so that went through the building commissioner and the town planner.
Well, the ADU is done by average setback. The building commissioner has still opined that they need a section 6, but that's not the planning board's jurisdiction. And town council has opined that the notification was fine.
So.
If I could help.
Sure, Mr. Sherrod.
Just to inform my neighbor, it is not a 6-bedroom, it's a 4-bedroom, so there are only 2 bedrooms. I have a couple of child on the first floor, I have a senior couple on the second floor. I'm putting this up so that they can all have garage parking. The parking can be much more organized and not what maybe currently has it. I didn't remove the tree for parking, I removed the tree died.
I can't hear it, I don't understand anything he's
He
saying.
says that
Very fast.
there's 2 bedrooms in each apartment. So
I
we
apologize
can
if
tell-
there's a misunderstanding, but
Yeah.
there is 2 bedrooms in each unit. I'm putting the garage up so that everybody can have garage
Yeah,
parking
garage space.
and organized and better.
Everyone, you mean you're gonna have garage parking for 5 cars?
There are not 5 cars.
Yes, there are, I have pictures.
All right, we're not gonna argue that.
Okay, well, I submitted pictures.
And
that I took
the board
from my
received,
property.
And we received.
and the applicant received.
Yeah, we received that.
I just would like to say, I understand the situation. Our neighborhood is old, it's established. The houses are not that far from each other. And to look out at 5 cars right across the whole front, I'd like to know with those 5 cars and then having an additional structure, and I'm sure those people will have vehicles, how are they gonna get in and out of the property? Because if you look at the picture, the cars pretty much, they park across and they pretty much take up most of the frontage that's left
Well, I'm
besides
sure
the
that
house.
that's where the garage and the ADU are going, where the cars are parked out, correct?
So I don't know where they're gonna park. Where
Well,
they're
they're gonna probably park here, and we don't have any control of that, so please remember that we are only one part of the permitting process. And it
Right.
has to go to zoning for section 6.
Right.
So under the current bylaw, we have to approve this ADU. That is by the governor, this is our by right ADU. So while we understand your frustration, and I can actually see it, and I was down there, I see this, there's some things that we don't really have a lot of wiggle room, and right now, this is what this new ADU bylaw has left us with.
Well, so I really think that, you know, first of all, there's gonna be overcrowding in the neighborhood. There's gonna be more traffic. Street is used as a cut through for avoiding intersections. And we have no sidewalks, we have children riding their bicycles up and down the street. We have people walking their dogs, and there's people that speed sometimes that go up and down the street.
And when you see that, you must call the police in real time.
You know, some of them go by so fast.
I know.
I can't see what kind of car it is, I can't see who's driving, I can't see what the plate number is. You know, believe me, if I could, I would. And I just, you know, it's just gonna be the start of more of this going on. And right now, I look out one of my windows and I can look into my neighbor's living room, you know, and we just don't need this. It's gonna ruin the neighborhood, and it's gonna cause more concentration of vehicles, population, and it's just overcrowding the land.
Well, you know, and I'm gonna tell you that if we agree or not agree with this, this board has to approve this.
May I?
Sure.
Also too, because they need a section 6 finding on this, it seems to me, now maybe I'm incorrect here, but is this not an A2 residential 10,000 square foot?
A3.
A3?
It is, and so they,
It's a non-conforming, currently it's a
so the building,
non-conforming.
that's what the building inspector has opined, so.
It's
that-
non-conforming.
But that's not up to us to make sure
What-
that it gets done.
What I'm trying to say here is, it's up to the zoning board of
Not up
appeals.
to us.
All of the issues that you have brought forth really need to be put forth to the zoning board of appeals. We have no choice in this.
Not trying to say that we're on a way.
But you can take your list of your concerns to the zoning board, so that, because they need to get a section 6 finding zoning relief.
Like I said, there's lots of places that you'll have to go to be able to build, this is just one faction. And it may or may not go through zoning, but that is not up to us.
Hi, John Feeney's, 16 Maple Ave. I just wanted to say, two different things. One is, and I'm sorry, I don't know, Mr. Terrell, that he did a great job with the house.
Yes.
That exists now. He improved it immensely, you know, no problems that way and so forth. So that part is fun. And I certainly am happy to have, you know, an ADU there that looks appropriate. And listening to what you just said, I realized some of the issues I might have with it. Yes, things that go to another board. So I understand all that. So I hope, you know, things like why the garage and why the drainage in the back, why the system, why the frontage couldn't be back, not by your zoning
That's a
laws,
zoning
but
issue.
by how it makes the neighborhood change, those things, and he might be able to answer about why the water can't be further back or something, all those issues. Yeah, I hope they will be able to be answered by other boards. But, again, yes, we need housing, and yes, we need, but we just hoping that the design that actually gets built will be more in keeping with all the improvements that have happened to our neighborhood.
So we
in the
can tell
past.
you that under site plan review,
Yeah,
if it comes back, we kind of request that looks like a house, it won't be something that doesn't belong there. It won't be something like something I don't want
Oh,
to
no.
temporary architecture.
I understand.
Yes.
Three, the stacked idea of three car garage with a thing on top of it. Sort of, I mean, I'm down the street, I'm not gonna see it as much, but the people across the street, I can't believe they will be thrilled with
It's a two-car
staring at the garage.
It's a two-car garage, it's not a three-car garage.
It's a three bay
No, it's
garage.
It
three.
is.
It's a three-bed garage.
It's
Okay.
a three
It is
big garage.
okay.
It's not gonna be higher than the
I-
house,
you know,
it's not gonna be any taller than the house.
It's not gonna be as appropriate there as it might be in Boston.
Again,
Anyway, that's all. Again, we did a great job with what he has done with the existing house. Very happy about that. Big improvement. That's all.
Right, they don't,
The drainage is being provided, he is infiltrating the roof runoff from the center, from the garage, essentially, well, they've set it all being to
that's
that
already
already.
taken care of.
Right, I meant in terms of moving.
That's it, so that's good.
Yeah, not, maybe not.
It is us,
Oh, that's.
drainage is not.
Okay.
What's the
Thank
difference between the apartment, the accessory dwelling, and the main house? How close are they?
These scales.
I believe one was dark inside, but one of the original draft.
Which one?
Yeah. This is, okay.
We can tell you in a second, yes, yeah, how would it
No,
I'm sorry, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right, we're all set here?
Well, I'm trying to get the answer to that, but I don't see it.
I think they looked at it.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Fine, Ann.
I'm fine.
Yeah, it's not on top of the house.
No, it's not, there's good, I mean, it looks to be,
Distance.
it looks to probably be close to 20 to 25 feet
Perfect, okay.
between the garage and the existing.
Both I worked very hard at making something that was contextual, that was set properly, that fits in the neighborhood. I spent a lot of money on the architectural design. I broke up the roof line, I broke up the beam along the middle.
Much
This
appreciated.
is not a cheap house. This is gonna cost me quite a bit of money. And I'm gonna landscape the property, and the tenants are all gonna have private personal yards to live in. My tenants that currently exist are excited and wanna continue to live there. I'm building decks off the back of the building for them. I'm doing a major improvement on the property.
Nice to hear, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let's get the tour over here.
There we go.
Thank you. I move to make the following findings of fact. One, on March 24, 2025, Paul Terrell applied for an ADU site plan administrative review for a detached ADU on the property at 20 Maple Avenue. Two, according to the town of Scituate assessor's records and the deed, property at 20 Maple Avenue is owned by Paul Terrell. Three, based on the floor plan submitted by the applicant, The floor area of the proposed ADU will be approximately 839 square feet. The principal dwelling is 2,228 square feet, according to the applicant and the assessor's card. This meets the size requirements of 530.1A of the zoning bylaw for ADUs, as the bylaw allows 50% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. For the ADU will be a complete separate housekeeping unit, and there will be only one accessory dwelling on the lot. The ADU is subordinate to the existing single-family home. 6, the property is in the residential R3 zoning district. The proposed detached ADU structure meets all the required setbacks, building height, and yard requirements for a principal dwelling. 7, the proposed ADU will have access through the rear ADU and from inside of the garage. 8, at least one private off-street parking space is provided for the ADU, as the ADU is located more than 0.5 miles from a commuter rail station, ferry terminal, or bus station. 9, the ADU will be serviced by town water and sewer. DPW requirements for water connections and sewer connections will be met. 10, the application meets the standards of the Scituate zoning bylaw for an ADU. 11, pursuant to general laws, chapter 40A, section 5 and 6, the proposed ADU will be subject to the proposed amendments to the zoning bylaw regarding ADUs, notice of which was first published December 26, 2024, and will be duly considered by the Scituate annual town meeting on April 14, 2025. The applicant wishing to proceed with this application prior to town meeting's action on the pending bylaw has applied for site plan review.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Baxter?
Mr. Lavadiya,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis.
Yep.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.
I moved administrative review of the ADU at 20 Maple Avenue with the following conditions. 1, except for any changes necessary to meet these conditions, any construction shall substantially conform to architectural plans by 686 Architects, Paul Terrell, 20 Maple Avenue, Scituate, Mass, dated 2/10/2025, with revisions through 3/21/25, consisting of 4 plans, including first floor plan A1, existing floor plan A2, elevations 1 and 2 A4, elevations 3 and 4 A5, site plan for 20 Maple Avenue, Scituate, Mass, by Greater Boston Surveying and Engineering, dated February 1, 2024. Plan of proposed water sewer grading and drainage, 20 Maple Avenue, Scituate, Mass, dated February 1, 2024, with revisions through 3/31/2025, details of previous pavers and roof drain overflow. 2, the ADU cannot be used for a short-term rental unit. A restrictive covenant shall be recorded against the property to that effect prior to any occupancy permit for the accessory dwelling unit. The covenant shall run to the town and be enforceable by the town through injunctive relief, with the property owner required to pay the town's reasonable legal fees and costs for successful enforcement of any violation of the restrictive covenant. 3, no further expansion of the ADU floor area is allowed without further review by the planning board. 4, the owner is not required to live in either the principal or accessory dwelling. 5, all requirements of the Board of Health, Building Department, Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Public Works, Fire Department, and other town agencies must be met prior to occupancy of the ADU. 6, the ADU shall conform to all applicable standards in the building, plumbing, electrical, mechanical, fire, and health codes and bylaws. 7, water connection must meet all requirements of the DPW water division for the ADU dwelling. A separate water service is required for the ADU, along with a connection fee and inspections. 8, the sewer connection must meet all requirements of the DPW sewer division for the ADU, including a sewer connection fee. 9, any lighting installed shall be down lighting to not shed light on abutting properties. 10, construction work shall not begin prior to 7 o'clock AM weekdays and 8 AM on Saturdays, and shall cease no later than 7 PM or sunset whichever is earlier. No construction shall take place on Sundays or on legal state and federal holidays. Construction includes the idling of vehicles, delivering of materials to the site, and all other construction activities. No parking of any vehicles shall occur on the public way. 11, runoff from the proposed ADU shall not be increased from the property. 12, erosion and sedimentation control devices shall be installed to prevent any erosion or sedimentation from leaving the site during construction. Silt socks shall be used as necessary along with the stabilization structure entrance.
There's second. Yes, sir.
So I'm sorry, I didn't get an opportunity to draft, and I have a question about the restrictive covenant. Short-term rentals are illegal in the town of Scituate already? So,
It is our decision that they will not be allowed in ADUs.
I understand, and that's a zoning bylaw, correct?
Yes.
So then why do I need a restrictive covenant to that effect? I have no problem with the law, I have no intention on short-term rentals. I'm concerned about having to issue a restrictive covenant. That's a burden, a cost on me, and it's not one that's required for single families. So I don't believe that that's in conjunction with the current law.
I disagree with you. Town council has opined, he does not feel it's restrictive. Town council feels that it's a very small expense to do a restrictive covenant. And that's what our bylaw proposes.
Okay, so the bylaw says that you can enforce a town covenant. Can I read that second? Can we read that together?
Hold on. Yes, sure.
Again, I'm not objecting to the requirement. I have no problem with it at all. I've had that unit for many years and I've never once done that.
I think it's because of the ADU.
Pardon me?
It's because of the ADU.
No, I understand that, and there's zoning bylaws, I have a property down in Scituate that has made it in the Cape Cod that has that same restriction. I don't have to have a covenant on that unit for that. And so, I'm sorry, I also have a problem with the fact that town council is opining with something that I wasn't informed about that is not necessarily in conjunction with state law. The state law says you shall not require me to do anything that you're not required to do for single family. So then,
It's right in,
Mr.
right
Chairman.
in the zoning, it's right in the draft of zoning.
Can we read it together, please? That's all.
Except
If I missed that, that's fine. I wasn't expecting this, so I didn't discuss it.
530.1A applicability. H, accessory dwelling units shall not be used as short-term rentals as defined in MGL chapter 64G section 1, meaning periods of occupancy of 31 days or less. A restrictive covenant shall be recorded against the property to that effect prior to any occupancy permit for the accessory dwelling. The covenant shall run to the town and be enforceable by the town for injunctive relief, with the property owner required to pay the town's reasonable legal fees and costs for successful enforcement of any violation of the restricted
Thank you for clarifying. Now I ask you all, I think you mentioned to me a few minutes ago that you understand that you can't have a restriction that you don't have in a single family for an ADU. Do we all agree to that?
No, I.
You don't, okay. So if this is determined by state law to be unsupportable, will that then be stricken from these requirements? For instance, if I have to go to court to have.
This is.
Right now, we've been advised that this is,
By our town council.
that this is legal to do, it's in the bylaw, it's legal to do, and we're doing it.
Okay, Kevin, you're doing it, these are folks that I need to make that determination, so I'm appealing to them. I'm pointing out, state law says one thing, that these regulations say another thing. You have town meeting on the 14th to enact these things. It's now the time to correct something that's incorrect in your regulations. You don't require it for single family. The governor's law, the state's law says you can't enforce something on an ADU you don't enforce on a single family. And so with that, I'm appealing to you to determine whether or not you think that's appropriate to have in the conditions that you're asking me to assign.
Steve, did you have something?
Mr. Pritchard, do you have something to say?
No, I think we've already said it.
Yeah.
I don't have any indication that I would change anything. I think we should stick with it.
Yeah. So this is a decision that we made as a board, it's going to town meeting, we'll see where that goes. Thank you. So did we call a roll call for the decision?
Mr. Labbadia,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbine, Ms. Lewis, Ms. Lambert.
Yes. Thank you very much. Thank you. And we'll go to the next piece of property. Thank you. So now we have a public meeting of Form A application 178 to 180 Edward Foster Road. And Mr. Clary?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
Hello, fine, thank you.
Now tell us what's happening out on First One.
We have lived at 180 Edward Foster for 32 years. And 23 years ago, we bought 178 Edward Foster Road. And all we're looking to do is to reportion our lawn where we built the patio a number of years ago, so there's absolutely no change at all. People walking by, it's just we're getting to that point where we need to be thinking about our estate or the subdivisions and just trying to get things right.
So this is like an A&R here.
Yeah, this is an A and R, and so, what he's proposing to do is redivide the property. It's a division which isn't a subdivision because it shows a proposed conveyance or change in the lot line. He's trying to make the lots more conforming. One of the lots is never gonna be, the setbacks are never gonna be conforming, but he's tried his best.
Okay, well, we appreciate that, thank you.
Okay.
I recommend endorsement.
Yes, it was changed a lot, thank you.
I move to endorse as approval not required, a plan 178 to 180 at Foster Road, Scituate, Mass, stamped by Claudio Sala, PLS, applicant owner John P. and Lynn Flannery, trustees John and Lynn Flannery, 178 EF and Lynn Flannery, EF, irrevocable trust dated November 20, 2024, with revisions through March 31, 2025, as the division of the tract of land shown on the accompanying plan is not a subdivision because it shows proposed conveyance or change in lot line which does not alter the existing frontage as required under the Scituate zoning bylaw. Planning board endorsement of this plan is not a determination in conformance with zoning regulations.
Second.
Mr. Lavadea,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. And now we've got like the old business, new business, and all that stuff. So, you know, we'll approve our minutes. That's all right.
Okay, I move the minutes, planning board minutes of March 27, 2025.
Second. All in favor?
Mr. Lavadea,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes. Okay, we'll provide a lot of the spending, but
I move to approve purchase order 2509-184 in the amount of $720. Peer reviews of 21 Central Ave / 7 Marshall Ave, South River Marine Project. Purchase order 2509-183 in the amount of $232.50 for peer review services for 799 and 803 Countryway. Purchase order 2509-266 in the amount of $3,302.50 peer review services, 340 Gannett Road.
in a second.
Mr. Lavadea,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes. This is administrative. Now we're gonna come on to our MBTA communities.
Oh, we forgot
It's
the
sedimentation.
sedimentation.
Oh, right, there.
Oh, yeah, it's there.
Okay, see, the problem is that I get one that I bring to your office, and then there's another one in my package, so they never match. That's what happens to me.
All right, so we've been, there was a submittal from the contractor for the water treatment plant, and they, want to remove the sedimentation, so Steve reviewed it along with our, consulting engineer, who had a number of recommendations. Woodard Curran had a few recommendations, so they are working to give the final submittal, but basically, it was agreed upon to remove the sedimentation stuff.
The water wasn't getting there.
The water wasn't getting where it was supposed to, and it never really did. There'll be frac tanks and other, stuff out there to be able to handle all the dewatering. So, they're just working on that right now. Now we can go to MBTA.
Now we can go to MBTA communities.
And so I have to report that we had a meeting with EOHLC today, and things are
Ooh.
moving in a positive direction.
Yay.
So that's a change.
Yeah, very pleasant meeting.
So
Moving forward.
where, that's all we can say at this point in time.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
And now going for the other ones, and now we're gonna get to accessory dwelling unit bylaw.
All right, so in the past, I got you all,
I have one.
I got you, but you have one too, so you can get a purple sheet. Oh, you get a purple sheet.
I love one, okay.
So here's a copy of the advisory booklet. Since the last time when we met and we talked about ADUs, we have had comments back from the AG's office. And the AG, doesn't have much of a problem with anything that we're doing, but there's some revised language changes on the large ADU, and the protected use ADU, and we're taking out one section, delete 530.2N in its entirety. All the other comments that the AG had, town council felt we should keep the stuff in the bylaw that it was defensible.
So I thought one of the things that the AG said was not to have the restricted covenant. Didn't we talk about that or no? And that he's, I could have sworn we had that whole conversation in your office. Am I making this up?
I don't remember, I don't remember the town council opined the restricted covenant was fine. He opined it costs about $200 to do.
So just record it in the registry.
Just record it at the registry of deeds.
It's almost like recording like bylaw.
Yeah. So if he wants to appeal his ADU over that, let him. Town council reviewed the draft decision. I asked town council the question. And so I feel pretty good that, he can defend us. I'm sorry. So it's just the 4 minor changes, and Steve, I'll send you it tomorrow, but
Okay.
I do have a copy, I did snag a copy of the advisory booklet, and I have the purple sheet for you too. They'll be handed out at town meeting. At least 500 copies have been printed, so all the people will be able to pick it up. So the motion is essentially gonna be as printed in the warrant and in the, with the water sheet, right? Something
Okay.
like that will be the motion.
That works for me. You got the message. I won't be there.
What? You won't be there at town meeting?
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I sent you a note earlier today. I got to go out of town.
Oh, I got the one you were sick. I hope
No,
you
no.
feel better.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah.
so that's where we are. That's where we are with ADUs right now, and we are, Rebecca and Patty have been working on,
Solid yes.
the presentation for Monday night. And, I mean, we know that there's going to be some opposition to our bylaw. We know that people are going to try to get up and delete, the part about short-term rentals. But Patty, I mean, the Affordable Homes Act was designed to be permanent housing.
Or a permit, yes,
So
long term.
we've done that in our presentation. It's not affordable, it's permanent long-term housing.
Well, if the state sees it as affordable because it's cheaper to build than a single-family home.
Well, we'll see what happens with the president. If he decides to put tariffs on, take them off, maybe you can get it on Tuesday, Wednesday won't be so good, hard to tell. So, we'll see what happens, how the economy goes.
Okay, so town meeting is Monday night.
Yes.
I'll let you do the liaison points before I do the planning and zoning.
I do not liaison with anybody, I was kind of busy,
I liaison with the housing.
Oh, how are they?
They are just lovely. Okay. It lasted all of 30 minutes.
Oh.
But one of the issues, couple of things. First, they'd like to see if some senior, property owner, whatever, would be willing to enter the town of Scituate to have an affordable, to have.
Most people are on board, okay.
And basically, they agreed that we really need to look into somehow, some way, family housing, 3 bedrooms. We need it. It's just not there. No. That's all I have to report on that report.
Bush?
All right, so I have several other things. How does the board feel about the working at the water treatment plant, probably on drainage in 3A on Patriots Day?
So you're not supposed to work on state holidays, so. But
They're not supposed to work on state or federal holidays. They're requesting to work on Patriots Day, putting drainage in 3A. I don't know that DPW is gonna let them, but I'm asking the planning board because I've been asked.
No. You mean they're going to tear up the street on Patriots Day?
Well, it's less travel day.
It's a
So I don't think it's the worst idea ever.
I don't know.
That sounds like a bad idea.
It's also April vacation.
Yeah, another reason it's big lighter traffic.
So there should be lighter traffic. I mean, I don't think there's ever any good time to take up 3A, I mean, just not gonna happen.
But that would be a day that there aren't school buses, so that's a good day.
Yeah.
But there won't be school buses on Tuesday either.
It's true.
Yeah.
There are no school buses on the weekend. We could let them work on the weekend.
They already asked to work this Saturday, and I granted permission from 8 to 3, because that's technically allowed in your permit.
Don't they leave one lane open?
Yeah, they have to leave,
They
they would have to get, the appropriate police.
Moving forward.
That's fine.
It's fine by me.
The buses were running.
Well, the schools are closed, it's a holiday, if you worked in private industry, you would be working, it's only a state holiday, so it's one of those crazy holidays.
I'm not sure DPW is gonna agree with
Well,
that.
that's their
So,
part.
a majority of the board says yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna be sending
Just for the
out,
record, I say no.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I'm gonna be sending out the, Hadley decision, for the board's comment, and it's gonna need to be a quick turnaround. Okay? We have a project that may be a project or may not be a project. But I'd like to know the board's thoughts on what you feel might be a public benefit in the harbor.
Like in general?
Waterways.
Big ass
Floats.
pump.
We could have floats all down and down, and they can walk up. I'm not serious. Oh,
I mean, I'm serious. I mean, so.
Life vests.
Life vest, would you?
Life vests for the harbor.
No, I'm talking about a public benefit that would be associated with an increased density of a project.
Okay.
So, you know, there has to be certain public benefits. And I indicated to this potential applicant that I would poll the board and see if they thought if there was any, if they could think of any public benefits.
I would have to think about that.
Well,
I think
parking.
parking is that what you said?
No, tear down houses to put in parking.
And it has to be in a plan in town.
Yeah,
I mean, so,
has to be the.
drainage, water, that kind of stuff, public land. I'm just asking,
Are we still on board with the conservation park thing? To here, down there?
If I go.
No.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
conservation
we're the
park,
harbor masters?
no, the conservation property for the boat ramp. Are they still working on that? They're
No.
doing a good job.
no, we don't have any money for that.
Okay, but we can put money to that for us.
Is that really a public benefit for the harbor?
No.
Well, not really, no.
I'm just asking you to think of some, I mean, you can take this under advisement, et cetera. But we may have a project that may require public benefit and you need to think about it.
I think, and now I'm like positioning myself, because I just said parking, but I think more green space or that, I know, green like gutters. No, but I'm thinking of, I know, I'm thinking of like Cole Parkway, and I see a lot of people walking, people with kids or older people like walking and sitting along the harbor there, and it goes. Yeah, and it's pretty, but it could be prettier.
I didn't take one of those.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful, but it could be
It does get
more, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it is used for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so that's pretty much, all that I can report.
Josh wrote.
That's all I wrote.
That Josh wrote.
That it?
Yeah.
Mr. Pritchett, we're gonna entertain Bill's motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Steve.
Good
Feel
night.
better.
Feel better.
Thanks.
Mr.
Thanks, everybody.
Lavia,
Yes.
Ms. Burke,
Yes.
Mr. Pritchard,
Yes.
He said yes.
Ms. Burbine,
Yes.
Ms. Lewis,
Yes.
Ms. Lambert.
Yes.